My name is Riza, and I work for the Foundation for Environmental Education. Our head office is based in Copenhagen, but we are a membership-based network with organizations around the world. And we're very excited to be launching our newest year-long campaign, Litterless Plus, with you all here today. So just some housekeeping before we get started. As I said, if you're just joining and your microphone is on, please turn it off so that we can avoid interruptions. We have 227 people here with us today, so that's fantastic, from all around the world. So welcome. If you do have any questions or comments, please feel free to put them in the chat. I have some colleagues who will be going through that and checking them. So we'll keep an eye on that. And if you're just joining, this event is being live streamed onto the Fée YouTube channel, and it's also being recorded. So if you would not like to appear in the recording, feel free to turn off your video. And before we begin, just a big thank you to our partners. Litterless Plus, this year-long campaign is a joint effort, and it involves many different people and many different organizations across the world. And we're so happy that we have such fantastic partners working with us on it. For a little overview of what this webinar is going to look like, I will introduce you to our speakers. Then we'll go over the actual activities that will be happening throughout the year as part of the campaign. And then next steps as to how you can participate. And we'll wrap up with a Q&A if you have any questions, technical questions about the campaign. So with that, I will briefly introduce our speakers. Our first speaker will hopefully be Daniel Scheffer. He is the CEO of the Foundation for Environmental Education, and he will be giving a brief welcome. Then we have Anne Vela-Wagner. She is the Executive Director of the Mars Wrigley Foundation. Natalie Fée is the founder of City to Sea, and Lefteris Arapakis is the co-founder of Enaleia. And they will be our panelists. So we will be having a panel discussion with them. And Gosha, my colleague, will be leading that discussion. During it, if you have any questions for our panelists, please feel free to put those in the chat. And now, hopefully, is Daniel here?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Fantastic, we can hear you. So I will hand it over to you. And
let's see how we do this. Unfortunately, I have computer problems, and I'm doing this from my phone.
No worries.
So things are not working as nicely as I wanted. Let's see if there you go. So I don't have my background. I don't have anything going at the moment, and I apologize for that, Riza. But I wanted to say a few opening words. The Foundation for Environmental Education is a global network with activities in over 120 countries and a membership base of over 100 members. The Fée program and activities are all driven by a number of cross-cutting elements. Education for a sustainable world is a key factor for change. Positive and collaborative approaches involving many stakeholders. Solution and action-based. Let's find out what we can do to bring a change instead of focusing on what we can't do and what we shouldn't do. Provide the support and space for the third sector to impact as a practitioner force for good, and strive for reward, celebrate, and learn from excellent practices of others. In 2021, Fée adopted a 10-year strategic plan to tackle 3 major challenges we are facing: climate change, biodiversity loss, and environmental pollution. This strategy was called Gaia 2030 and will for years to come be the backbone and the focus of our development. Last year, we ran our year-long Gaia 2030 biodiversity campaign with great success. We had thousands of people around the world who took the biodiversity quiz, We received lesson plans and best practices from educators in more than 25 countries. Our annual Global Action Days campaign was the biggest yet, with over 150,000 participants from 73 countries. In 2022, we also participated as a key partner in the Running Out of Time campaign that had 10,000 people run a baton from Glasgow to Sharm el-Sheikh and had 800,000 petitioners sign the campaign's message. And we had over 250,000 school students participate in activities, all in the call for quality climate education as a global necessity. We have seen and proven that when we come together, great things can be achieved. Encouraged and driven by these successes and the lessons we have learned, so also from our failures, and the positive momentum this year, we'd like to continue supporting our Global Fee Network in the incredible work it is doing while we tackle the huge issue of pollution. Pollution is affecting every facet of our lives and our well-being, and that of the natural world that we are a part of. Water, soil, and air are the very basic elements of our life and our world. Focusing not only on reducing pollution of all kinds, but also on promoting responsible consumption and the circular economy approach to different aspects of our lives. By including these elements these different aspects of our lives, by including these elements that are addressed in the Gaia 2030 strategy, we take a holistic approach to the problem of pollution that can help reduce its negative effect beyond the limited time frame of the campaign. Today, we at Fee are excited to be launching the Litterless Plus, building on over 10 years of experience with the Litterless campaign. We've worked hard to create activities and resources to support positive actions throughout the Fee network during this year's long campaign. We believe that the Litterless Plus has something to offer for everyone. Help inspire, get inspired, take action. We have no doubt that together we can tackle pollution in 2023 and beyond. Let us all commit and participate in this campaign and see how the power of a global network can bring change. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Daniel, for those words. I think we can all just take a moment to reflect on those and keep in mind that, you know, this is a year-long campaign and there's different types of activities. But really the key here is that when we all do something, change can happen. And I think this is what we're looking forward to see over the year, and Fee with its global network and community of eco-schools and hospitality establishments and many other sites. We hope to see a lot of great action on all fronts. With that, I will hand it over to our panelists and to my colleague Gosha, who is the International Director for the Young Reporters for the Environment program. She will be facilitating the panel, and we will have Anne, Natalie, and Lefteris speaking. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Riza. And I would like to say that I'm very happy that I can facilitate this panel with our fantastic guests. And as Daniel mentioned at the beginning, today we will be talking about this, what people do through their work, how they can inspire others. And this will be done through our panelists. Before we will actually talk what each of us can do through the Litterless Plus campaign. And starting this panel, I would like to ask our guests to present themselves, and I can start from Natalie. If you can say a few words about what are you doing and who are you representing for this panel?
That would be my pleasure. Thanks for having me. I'm Natalie Fée. I'm the founder of City to Sea. So we're an organisation based in Bristol in the UK, and amazing to see how global this call is. I'm really excited to be here today. So I set City to Sea up back in 2015. I was working in television at the time as a presenter and producer, really frustrated about the lack of environmental coverage and really frustrated about the amount of plastic pollution I was starting to see on the news, and also seeing here in my hometown and along the riverbank. And I felt like I did some research and I looked around and I saw that there were some people that were starting to do beach cleans, and I felt like there was a lack of support and momentum for upstream solutions to plastic pollution. So really stopping plastic pollution at source. So we run a number of campaigns here at City to Sea. We've now grown to a team of around 20 people. And the kind of campaigns we run, we work in a number of ways to try and affect that system change that we all want to see happen. So we have like grassroots behavior change campaigns. So our refill campaign, for example, we have an app with our refill campaign. There's over 300,000 places on the app where people can eat, drink and shop with less plastic. So it started off with water, a water refill campaign, and over the years it's grown to include other refill and reuse systems. Another area that we focused on that we were very interested in was flushed plastic. So a lot of people don't realize that our toilets, certainly here in the UK, have a direct pathway to the oceans. They shouldn't. That's another subject. But we did a lot of work on looking at those flushed plastics. So for example, cotton buds, or sometimes known as Q-tips in different countries, were made of plastic, and they were being flushed by the billions and ending up on every, anyone who's walked along a beach or riverbank will have seen, hundreds of cotton buds. So we ran a campaign in 2016 called Switch the Stick, and we managed to get all of the supermarkets in the UK to stop making cotton buds out of plastic, which was a huge win and really exciting. And then 3 years later, the government finally legislated, but because of that consumer demand. And we do a lot around plastic-free period products, so menstrual health and bringing awareness to alternatives to plastic disposable period products. We run an education program. That's my 2 minutes. An education program to help educate people around reusables and the environmental impact of our periods. I'm also an author. I wrote a book. I've written a few books, but one called How to Save the World for Free. And I do speaking events as well. That's me.
Thank you so much, Natalie, for this fantastic presentation and introducing yourself and highlighting the goals of avoiding the world from plastic and making people inspired with this work. And before we get back to you with another question, I would like to ask our other panelists and to present yourself and point of view from your perspective.
Sure. Thank you, Gosha. It's a pleasure to be with everyone today, to be a part of this panel. Thanks to everyone from around the world. If it's your morning, afternoon, or evening, good day to you. I'm Anne Vela-Wagner. I'm the Executive Director of the Mars Wrigley Foundation. The Mars Wrigley Foundation was established in 1987. It has impacted millions of people around the world through its work to nurture well-being through initiatives focused on oral health, litter and waste prevention, and then addressing resource gaps that ensure happy and healthy communities. We are a part of Mars Wrigley, and the Mars Wrigley business and works to inspire moments of happiness around the world. We are a leading manufacturer of treats and snacks, many of which you are probably familiar with because we have been in business for over 125 years. We have iconic global brands such as M&M's and Snickers, Twix, Orit, Double Mint, Skittles, Starburst. Mars Wrigley is one part of Mars Incorporated, and Mars Incorporated is truly driven by a belief that the world we want tomorrow starts with how we do business today. And as a global family-owned business, Mars continues to work to transform and innovate and evolve to ensure it's making a positive impact on the world. This is work that is done throughout the business, and again, also led through partnerships that I am very honored to lead through the Mars Wrigley Foundation and our longstanding partnership as well with Fée, which I'm sure we'll talk more about today, as it was established in 2011 when we established the Litterless campaign. So many years of learning that we will continue to evolve and share with everyone here on this call. So just honored to be with you today.
Thank you so much. Yes, and exactly, we wanted to have you as well on this panel to highlight this great educational partnership that we run for over 10 years, and also to have a point of view of different perspective from people who are inventing their business and starting the companies and campaigns, but also looking from a global perspective of a global company to this. So we will get back to you as well with some other questions. And I would like to ask Lefteris as well to talk about his organization and what he's doing in Greece and in some other countries.
Thank you very much, Gosia, for the introduction and the invitation as well. So good morning or good evening from me as well. My name is Lefteris Arapakis, and I am the co-founder and director of Enaleia. So we are a social enterprise that started in Greece, and what we are doing is we are training fishermen to fish for plastic. And it all started like a few years ago. As a matter of fact, my family is a family of fishermen, like a fifth generation family of fishermen. So a few years ago, we were creating the first fishing school in Greece to fight unemployment and create new jobs in the sector. So as a matter of that, we wanted to create a curriculum. And even though I'm coming from a fishing family, I'm probably the worst fisherman in Greece. Honestly, I'm really bad. I studied economics and business, so I don't have that background. So to create the curriculum, we went on various fishing trips in the Aegean Sea. And then on the first trip, I was really shocked to see that the fishermen were collecting in their nets not only fish, but also plastic, a lot of it. And I still remember the first catch, we got like this soda drink that was so old, it had expired back in 1987. So it was like 30 years in the sea. And then as I was looking at that, the fisherman took it from my hand and just threw it back in the sea. And he told me, Lefteris, plastic is not our problem. But then all the studies indicated that by 2050, we'll have more plastic than fish in the sea. So we realized it is our problem. And that's why we started training fishers to bring back the plastic they collect with their nets. So we started from our local port here in Piraeus. And then gradually, we expanded our operations all over Greece, Italy, and Kenya as well. And to give you an example, it wasn't the easiest thing convincing fishermen to fish for plastic. So we are in this like small fishing village, and I'm speaking with the president of the fishermen, and he was saying, you know, Lefteris, I will bring plastic, but nobody here will do. And I'm like, don't worry, Captain, I'll take care of the rest. So for the next 2 weeks, I just had this conversation 180 times with 180 fishermen. And then they all said the same. And then in 2 weeks' time, they went for fishing, and all of them broke plastic that night, and they filled the whole port with plastic. So after that, they started spreading the word, and now we are working with more than 2,000 fishers all over the Mediterranean and Kenya. We are collecting around 5 tons of plastic from the sea weekly. That's approximately 1 truck full of plastic from the sea daily. And we are working with recycling and upcycling companies to turn this plastic into new products, such as furniture, swimming pans, and everything. So that's from me. Thank you very much, and very excited to be here.
Thank you so much. It sounds so interesting that you are working directly and you got inspired with the work with fishermen. And actually, I would like to address the question to all of you. Different campaigns and informations are showing up in media run by different organizations, and activities about pollution are highlighted also in governmental strategies, in different actions. Why you think that it is still important to take actions and highlight pollution as one of the important aspects of tackling our environmental problems? And maybe I will start backwards from Lefteris as well.
Okay, yeah, great. That's actually an excellent question. So I think we need to break it down into 2 points, why pollution is important. So pollution, apart from the fact that it's kind of massively killing biodiversity in our oceans and also on the land, it's also contributed to climate change. Plastic is currently one of the major threats to plankton and whales in the oceans that are responsible for almost half of the oxygen we are breathing. So it's a direct effect of plastic pollution that we're having in the oceans. And on top of that, another reason that we need to act right now is that plastic is causing billions of dollars of damage to coastal communities. It creates damages to the fishing sector, the shipping sector, the tourism sector. So it's directly affecting us today. And unfortunately, it's going to directly affecting us tomorrow because of the health implications it's going to create. So speaking from experience, plastic breaks down to microplastic, and then that gradually through the food chain enters our system. So yeah, currently the average person in the West is eating the equivalent of a credit card of plastic every week, according to WWF. So the reason we need to act is that I think the public is kind of aware now of the challenge, but the problem is that we're losing the battle with plastic pollution and pollution in general. So I think that's why we need more innovative solutions, more synergies, more partnerships, and definitely to advocate more about governments to take action. And to finalize my sum it up, I was having a discussion with some people from the European Commission, and I told them, you know, we don't find plastic straws in the oceans, actually, you know. So it's a very small percentage of the plastic that's there. Like the most common plastic we find in the Mediterranean and the Indian Ocean is fishing nets. It's around 15 to 20% of the total plastic. So that's why I think we need to have better and more targeted actions to fight pollution. So thank you.
Thank you. I totally agree with this, what you said, and it's so important that we focus also on this, what is happening in oceans. Yeah, I would like to get back to Natalie as well with these questions, because you are working also with plastic, like with the campaigns refilling coffee in different markets, and as well, and what from your perspective, how it looks like.
Yeah, well, I think Lefteris covered a lot of that important ground, and I think what, you know, despite all the awareness about it and despite how popular it was, you know, I say was because there was like a moment when everybody became aware of plastic pollution, and now the focus tends to shift onto climate, and people aren't seeing the connection which Lefteris referenced between plastic pollution and climate, and the fact that 99% of plastic made is still made from fossil fuels. But I think despite all of this great work, plastic pollution is still expected, well, plastic production is still expected to double by 2030. That's what, 7 years, and that's looking to still double plastic pollution in our oceans. It's expected to quadruple by 2050. So we're not seeing signs of it really slowing down. And even the sort of New Plastics Economy, Ellen MacArthur Foundation that big corporates are signed up to and the big plastic producers are signed up to, we're seeing a very small, in some cases, they're still increasing the amount of plastic produced. And there is, it's still a fight to get refill and reuse targets included in legislation around the world, and certainly here in the UK. And you know, we're kind of lagging behind Europe in some ways as well, but well, in many ways, but we won't go there. I think so it's important for us to really continue to share stories about it and share the solutions to it, and from our side push for the legislation around refill and reuse targets, as well as reducing the amount of non-recyclable plastics produced.
Yeah, exactly. And educate people about benefits from that type of behaviors. And how it looks from the corporate perspective on this.
Sure. I mean, as Lefteris and Natalie have shared, you know, it is a very complex problem with no simple solution. You know, recognizing we all have a responsibility to reduce waste and eliminate litter and care for our communities. Through the work of the foundation, we're proud of our partnerships around the world to really address litter and waste prevention. The business side, there are many initiatives that are taking place to address this issue. We are investing hundreds of millions of dollars from the business to reimagine and redesign packaging. This includes reducing and redesigning more than 12,000 packaging components across the diverse Mars portfolio to fit within recycling infrastructure that exists today or is likely to exist in the future, to make it easier for consumers to reuse or recycle our packaging. There are trials occurring in some markets where we've switched to paper-based packaging as well. And today, almost half of our packaging portfolio is undergoing redesign or just elimination. And one thing that is very important to highlight is accountability. We are holding ourselves accountable by embedding packaging targets into how we measure business success. So our top 300 Mars executives now have their remuneration targets linked to delivering against our packaging targets. So again, we recognize this is a very significant challenge, and we want to be part of the solution.
Exactly, and this is also massive change in such a large corporate and company working in different countries as well. So we need that approach as well in this. And Natalie, you mentioned as well about Ellen MacArthur, and I would like to ask you as well, through your work, how do you approach the circular economy on this plastic pollution activities?
Sure. Well, as I said, we've always really focused on stopping plastic pollution at source. And for us, that's as much as possible, especially with on-the-go food and drink, is looking at how we can shift towards refill and reuse. So actually not switching to bioplastics, which we know can be difficult to compost and difficult to dispose of and can be treated the same way, whereas shifting to a circular economy does involve investing in refill and reuse infrastructure. So we've tended to work in a number of different ways, but generally our theory of change is around sort of creating awareness of the problem so people are motivated to make a change, increasing accessibility to infrastructure. So that might be water fountains. So we run a water fountain scheme. It's helping we're launching a coffee cup return and reuse scheme here in Bristol, basically making it easier and more affordable and addressing the barriers to people accessing refill and reuse, and then empowering people to take action. So really sort of from individuals right the way up to retailers. And also we get requests from retailers and from sort of businesses within the refill and reuse space asking us to do more in terms of legislation, because they know that once the law is there, it makes it easier for them to get the budgets to invest in refill and reuse. So so we do that work as well. So and also helping people understand why it's important and what it means.
Exactly. I think this is really important to know, to understand why and the need for that. And Lefteris, Natalie mentioned that it's very important as well to select what kind of products can be replaced or what kind of materials can replace the plastic in, for example, that's our daily behaviors, and how it looks from the fisherman perspective, and how the circular economy approach can be can go with finding some solution for fisher nets.
Well, that's a great question. First of all, I think if somebody creates a material that's going to replace plastic for fishing nets, I think they will win a Nobel Prize. I think that's going to be outstanding. So we're not there yet. So based on our approach, we collect a lot of plastic from the sea. And when we started our project like around 5 years ago, well, Greece was kind of dead last in the EU regarding recycling rates. So there was all this technology to recycle it. And suddenly we started collecting a lot of plastic, and then we had no idea what to do with that. So what we did, and that's maybe my advice to people with similar challenges in their country, we started going door to door to recycling companies, and we created kind of a custom-made line of recycling. So we convinced them, and then in every port that we're operating, they put now a special container or a press container. So the fishermen from every port We have also a local coordinator in each port. Every night, they weigh the plastic and then they put it in the container. Once the container gets full, then it gets to some sorting facilities and then the plastic is sorted. So then we started finding companies, mainly startups, to be very honest, that were willing to upcycle that plastic into new products. So we found organizations willing to work with us. We found also some NGOs, Health Disease in the Netherlands, that were willing to take some of the fishing nets we were collecting and then they upcycled into socks and swimming pants. We found some startups and companies from Spain, like Equal, that were able to take the plastic bottles, the PET plastic, and turn it into jackets and t-shirts and shoes. And then suddenly we started working with all of these little teams and companies, and now they're making like furniture, they're making building material. So around 55% of the collected plastic that we collect from the ocean is turned into new products. So that allows us to provide some funding back to the fishing communities that participate in the project, while in the Mediterranean, that's kind of a small extra. In Kenya, it's a full-time job. So through that model in Kenya, we're able to create 50 full-time jobs for women to do the sorting of the plastic, and at the same time increase the income of more than 500 fishers till today, and hopefully that number will reach 2,000 by the end of 2023. So yeah, this is what we're trying to do, and we're trying to create products actually that will kind of live forever. So that's why we're pushing for the furniture, because if you have a damage in your furniture, you bring it back to the factory and then they can rebuild it, so it can survive for a long period of time. So yeah, that's our approach.
Exactly. And you mentioned that it's so important that the partnership aspect. So getting a company that can actually use some of the, I would say, waste that were collected and upcycled into products. And I would like to focus a bit on the partnership and ask Anne about this cross-sector collaboration and how it is important to tackle the environmental pollution.
Yes, definitely. Well, in addition to Mars' internal work to redesign its packaging, Mars also works actively to drive true systems change in terms of infrastructure through partnerships with governments, NGOs, suppliers, packaging developers, and even competitors. Mars invests in recycled content and signals our intent to buy even more in order to drive new investments in recycling technologies. And we have called for improvement of these systems through legislation and industry collaboration. We recognize, and I think it's been shared here by my other panelists, it requires the effort of many to continue to make positive progress in preserving the health of our planet, and the power of collaboration is essential to drive this forward. So I also want to acknowledge the Litterless campaign and its evolution over the years in terms of the number of countries that is engaged, the number of students. All of that works towards the positive transformation we all want to see.
Yeah, exactly. This is so important as well, and to highlight this aspect that individually we are not so effective. Like when we joint venture to do things together, then it's much that this can increase the impact and make a huge difference. And Natalie, how it looks from your perspective on this partnership and how you see through your work on this?
Well, we're only here doing what we do because of partnership. So we've generally mostly funded our work through either working with product partners or corporate partners, and some grants and foundations as well. But for me, it's just having an awareness of the ecosystem of change, and that there are the importance of NGOs, and within NGOs you've got the very activist ones that are very sort of anti, and they're the ones protesting and making the noise. They have an important part to play. You've got those that work with rather than against, and they have a role to play. Those that focus us again on beach cleans and picking up litter, that awakens people to the problem, and then you can find ways sort of upstream to then help change it. Governments obviously have their part to play, but we as individuals and as NGOs and as corporations can have a real say in pushing for the legislation that we need. retailers, producers. So everybody plays their part. So the importance of collaboration can't be overstated, because it's the only way that change is going to come, by having us all working on it together. So I think it's exciting. Yeah, and very much where we see some of the most tangible changes happening.
Exactly. It is so important to highlight as well that everyone has its role to play in all this work, and everyone can do something to tackle this environmental pollution. And I would like to ask you, Natalie, when you were thinking about this, how you started this your work, and would like to say to people that are today with us on this meeting, and also youth who are also looking forward, what they can do, how they can start to make a difference. What would you tell to them?
Maybe I'll start with that bit, with the sort of how individuals might find their way. I think the thing is these problems are going to take a long time to solve, and we want to solve them immediately, and we want to see quick wins and change. But the reality is, this is a marathon and not a sprint. And so actually you need to be able to resource yourself and not burn out, which is the case. A lot of campaigners can experience burnout. And I think that's by understanding if you offer something that you love and that you're good at and that brings you joy, you're going to be able to sort of stay in the game for longer. So I think playing to your strength, whether you're changing the world through art or through music or through economics or through accounting, sort of whatever your strength is what you can bring. And I think as well, focusing on what aspect of the environmental crises that we face that you're most passionate about, whether that's forests or oceans or soil. It does not get enough attention, and it needs our help. So I think finding your passion, finding your lane, and making headway within that, and also working within corporations. I mean, what we can do, as individuals compared to what, someone who's working at Amazon or with Mars Wrigley, you can just shift the dial slightly, and suddenly you're looking at hundreds of tons, thousands of tons of plastic being stopped at source. So I think, yeah, focusing on your superpowers. And then I think as well with individuals is not underestimating the power that you have telling your stories and sharing. It could be from switching from using conventional period products to using a menstrual cup, and the benefits and the stories around that you share a positive news story with your circle, that can really ripple out. Telling, sort of showing, I have a motto that there's a better way that's way more fun, and so it's sort of showing that the changes that we make are better than what we were doing before. So it's not a sacrifice. So yeah, sharing stuff on social media, using your networks. And I also think let's not underestimate the power of still writing to your local politicians and keeping it up there, that they need to see that this is still something that we are concerned about, particularly around litter and plastics.
Exactly. And you said that very important word about thinking it in a long-term perspective, not being burned out with one action and thinking, okay, it didn't succeed. I don't see so a huge effect from it and huge impact. And you are representing the foundation as well that is working on this kind of long-term partnerships, and how you see this from that perspective, and what would you say people as well to work on this pollution?
Yes, I mean, I completely echo, Natalie's sentiment. It is definitely long-term investment, and that's part of the long-term partnerships that we've had with Fée. The other thing from an individual level, I'd say don't wait to start. You can start now. Sometimes these very large, complex challenges feel very overwhelming, and that can give people pause, but look at what you can control in terms of the decisions you make, at your home, at your school, within your community. What we've heard from Natalie and from Lefteris today, they saw challenges within their own communities that they decided to tackle and have grown into these incredible organizations. And you never know where that work can take you, but it's just starting and taking that first step and making that first change. That is something we can all do and we can all continue to get better at. And we have an excellent partner in Fée. So Fée can provide guidance and additional resources. And we have the Litterless Plus campaign this year that can be an excellent resource. So if you're not sure where to start, reach out and this is your time.
Thank you so much. And highlighting that as well. And we will get back to activities and some ideas for this. But I would like to also ask Lefteris on that, because you started your organization with passion, with feeling that this is something that you can do. And what would you say others that are kind of struggling, how to start, where to begin this challenge? With this challenge?
Thank you, Gosia. That's a great question. So I think, first of all, I need to say that I think not everybody is supposed to start their own organization or company or startup, and that's very okay. Like, there are people that are amazing teachers, employees, managers, researchers. So I think that's one thing. So everybody can contribute to that. So I have 3 very short pieces of advice that, based on my own experience, so I'm no academic, but this kind of mindset helped me a lot. So the first one is that you need to create a clear vision of what you want to achieve, like to figure out a challenge in your community or something that's really annoying you, but not focus on the problem, focus on how you want it to look like in the future. Like, imagine it, how it looks when you've solved it. So when we started, like, I was imagining that every fisherman in Greece was collecting plastic, and we are now almost there, and we are expanding it in other countries. So, in the beginning, I thought it wasn't possible, but when you have a clear vision on that, I don't know, it's kind of guides you over there. So that's the one thing. The second thing, and I think it's very important, and maybe one of the most important activities is, I think people need to focus a lot on taking care of themselves, and especially about stress issues, mental issues. I think one of the most important activities is taking care of you. You cannot help anybody if you are depressed or burned down because you're trying to solve something that is too big or you're too alone on that. So again, based on experience, sometimes it's okay to take a step back and say, I need to think of myself. I need to rest. I need to sleep. I need to take a vacation. I need to go out and see my friends and family. So for me, that's a very important issue. And, in this culture that we have now, the individualistic culture, sometimes we forget to think of us. So it's really important to have a good mental state. And I think the last thing, I think the previous speakers spoke about that as well, is focusing on the things you can change. Again, I'm discussing with so many friends, family, colleagues. Many people are focusing on things they cannot change, like the past or the weather, or when you're stuck in a traffic jam and you're so annoyed by the traffic jam that you cannot change the traffic jam. So I find out that so many people spend so much energy, myself included, in situations you cannot affect. No matter how angry you are, the past is not going to change, or the weather is not going to change. So you need to focus on the things you can change. And the first thing is your own thoughts. You need to be aware of that. And then your own actions. And then gradually you'll see that you can start affecting other people's thoughts and actions as well. So when we started, it was just one person who wanted to clean the plastic from the sea with fishermen. And then it was just a few fishermen, my father and his friends. A few years later, there are thousands of them. But we didn't start with thousands, we just started with one person and taking it step by step. So I think if somebody is implementing these 3 guidelines, maybe we'll help them So at least it helped me start and launch this initiative.
Thank you, Lefteris. I think it was a fantastic summary of this discussion, like looking into like having what is your clear vision, looking at the local challenge, and remembering about our own well-being whenever we try to solve global problems or bigger problems than goes beyond our daily life and things that we have in this. So thank you so much to our great speakers today. I also hope that the audience found out it interesting. They picked things that they could also let them be inspired for our activities. I would like to ask as well if there are any questions on chat. I was not able to monitor them carefully, but if there is maybe 1-2 questions that from the audience to our speakers, then maybe we can use 1-2 minutes for that.
There are some excellent questions in the chat, very well thought out and complex ones, but kind of a reoccurring question that maybe sounds simple, but is maybe more complex. There are a few questions asking, coming from countries where there are no recycling programs, there are no facilities, upcycling is not an option. What do you do if you live somewhere where you can't recycle? How do you get started? Anyone want to tackle that question?
Well, I can tackle that in a way, like from our experience in Kenya. So Kenya is now, the last few years, starting to have developed recycling facilities. So what we did there is we found some local groups that used to be NGOs that were just working on the field with various communities. So we started working with them and empowering them, and then we found some grants, and then they were able to get some small recycling machines in place. So that pilot activity actually started to work, and then the local community started to bring the plastic there for recycling. And I don't know, chain reaction, and then big recycling companies came in Kenya because they saw that there is potential to do that. So yeah, like somebody can start like a pilot recycling activity. There are some used recycling machines and equipment that they are not so expensive. So somebody can, maybe that's also, you know, a business opportunity. If there's no recycling in your country and you bring the recycling in your country, you know, you can set up a business there. Just, you know.
Someone would like to add to this, Natalie or Anne?
Sure, yeah. And I think that's it, isn't it? If you've got the energy and the passion, you can get something started and see if things grow from there, sort of non-attached, give it a go, see if it happens. But I think the other thing is, if you're in that situation, is very much campaigning, you know, pushing for change at government level and looking at creative ways that you can campaign and raise awareness about that and demand that systems change from local authorities, local governments. I think like Rwanda is an incredible example. They have like one national day a month where shops aren't open, they have to go out and clean. It's like a national cleaning day, and it's an incredible initiative, as well as the, you know, the legislation that they've brought in. So I think showing how others have done it and taking inspiration from there.
Gosia,
Yes.
Can I say something about that? Because I think this is a huge issue that that reemerges every time, because FEE works in many of the countries, for example, in sub-Saharan Africa or parts of Southeast Asia, where sometimes these facilities don't exist. So and it can be very disheartening for somebody to go and do, you know, to make the effort and then, for example, find out that everything is poured into one landfill at the end, even if you've gone through the whole recycling system and so on. So I think part of the answer for this, and I'm sorry that I'm going to something which is a little larger, but there needs to be some form of policies and responsibility of the manufacturing of, for example, of these plastics, to support the creation of these facilities and this infrastructure in these countries. We're talking today about you know, the responsibility of the developing world toward the developed world towards the developing world in terms of climate change. This is a big issue within the discussions in COP, but this is exactly the same thing. We need to make sure that we help them. If we're selling this thing, we're shipping a lot of our crap, sorry, to these countries. You know, these are things that have to be managed, and there needs to be accountability and responsibility, and that has to do with policies that is sometimes done in the source countries, and not where the consumers are. And yeah, it's a very, very complex problem, and we know how difficult it is, for example, for hotels to join the Green Key program when they're required to do certain recycling or reuse, and they can't. I mean, the infrastructure is not there. So I think this is definitely a responsibility at government and at the global level.
Yes, and advocating for that, and from the individual perspective also keep it doing and not be disappointed in this, because it brings power. And I know that from the Polish example, when I was working with the schools in the past, it was like that, but they were very disappointed. We are sorting it in the schools, then one truck is coming and bringing everything into one place and mixing everything. But the work was kind of making this influence on local municipalities and level, and the change came. So it is important to keep it doing. I'm not sure if we have more time to have more questions in that. I would say that our speakers are also staying with us, so you can also post still some questions on the chat. They will have time to review that, also post some information about themselves as well and the work that they were doing, so you can follow this information there in the chat. And if there will be more questions, we can also reply them later and answer to some people individually. But now I will give the floor to Riza, and thank you once again to our speakers for this fantastic panel. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. That was very interesting. Lots of great comments and questions also coming through. One of them being, can students participate in these activities? Which is the perfect segue, I would say, into the Litterless Plus activities and ideas that we have for you. So with that, I will share my screen and I will invite my colleague Shimon to give us a little overview of what Litterless Plus is all about and what you can all do.
Yes, Riza, thanks a lot, and thanks for the speakers. I will present to you the different actions and activities that we planned. And after listening to Natalie, Lefteris, Anne, and so on, I can see that they relate very much to the points that were raised about inspiring others, focusing on what you can change, stopping pollution at source, and so on. So what we planned is a set of activities. Some of them, they are of a more educational character. For example, lesson plan competition. Others, as quizzes, for instance, they are more to increase engagement, make people reflect about the pollution issue and about circular economy and so on. But let's go one after one, and then I hope that you will be inspired, and then you can look at them more closely when you have time, and then choose what is suitable for you. Now, for example, we have the two quizzes on Kahoot. One of them is more generally about pollution, and the other one is more directed towards pollution within the tourism sector. They are about, they're short, about 10 to 13 questions, and we have them in different languages, and they take about 5 to 8 minutes to complete. You can scan the QR code and then take it, for example, with your friends or in class, or if you have like a youth group that you participate in, then you can take it there. And we try to make it fun. And more languages will come in. For example, Portuguese will also come in soon. And therefore everyone. So everybody can take it. And then we have a series of webinars, and they also deal with different aspects of the pollution issue and circular economy. For instance, we have one dealing with textiles within environmentally friendly textiles within the tourism sector. Other talks about water pollution. So you can take a look at the plan. They are also open for everybody, and you can already register for them now. So if you look at it, and then you can choose the one that is relevant for you. We have online courses on Fee Academy, free courses, one about pollution and one about circular economy. And they are for everybody, for students, for teachers, for practitioners, and you can take it in their own pace and get a certification at the end of the course. We have educational grants for circular economy projects to promote projects on circular economy, responsible consumption, and production. And they are aimed for schools running the eco schools, learning about forest and YRE programs, but also for schools that are associated with the Litterless campaign through our partners, the World Scouts Organization and the UNESCO ASP.NET. So if you have an idea and you would like to get some funds to implement it, then we have something about 500 euros per project, and we aim to fund about 60 schools. If you're interested, go to the website, download the form and fill it in the best way you can, and send it to us by the 28th of February. And then we will review it. The best one will be selected, and then you will be able, if you're selected, you'll be able to start your projects around the 1st of April, and we will ask for a final report by the end of October. We will continue sharing and collecting best practices to promote local actions to preserve resources and reduce pollution. Within the blue flag and green key, it's something that is already happening and will continue, and we will reshare the posts in the social media. For the educational programs, we will collect new best practices. And so if you have something that you do and that you know works, and you would like to share it, then download the form and fill it in, and then we will reshare it. We have global action days, and they are a couple of weeks that we take every April. This year it's going to be between the 18th and 28th of April, where we in these 2 weeks we promote simple to do activities about certain topics. For example, last year it was about biodiversity. This year is going to be about responsible consumption, the 5 R's: refuse, reuse, reduce, repurpose, and recycle. And they are being designed now, and they are very nice, and everybody can be engaged in this, all ages basically. And it doesn't matter if you're in a school or you work and you want to do something within your working place. And they are very, very fun. For example, we have an activity about minimizing our meat consumption. As you know, the more we consume meat, the more we the more we cause air pollution by nitrogen. We cause also climate change and loss of biodiversity due to the conversion of land. So the activity that we designed is, for example, you think of a vegetarian dish that you like, you write it down, you swap a recipe with your friends, and then you can also arrange a tasting, and then you can also cook together your new recipe and so on, and then publish it in your social media and raise awareness of the issue. So things like this is activities like this, they can be a lot of fun for young people to do as well. We have also another activity that is about books, Swap Day, to promote the reuse of books and minimize our consumption of paper. And there we will ask you to think of a book that you read and that you have, that you enjoyed and you don't need anymore, and tell your friends about it, and then swap it for another book that you would like to have. And we have also an activity about replacing harmful chemicals with more environmentally friendly alternatives, and thinking about eco-labeling, or an activity about being creative with stuff that we have, for example, repurposing old jeans to a bag, and so on. So many different activities, and you can choose the ones that are relevant for you and do them when you feel, when you want to. So there is no fixed time. And we provide easy to follow guidelines. We provide links to videos, it's like short videos to inspire you, to articles, to lesson plans, to fact sheets, as well as some preparations for some notes about how to prepare for such an activity and how to close it in a nice way. So these will come very soon and will be available for you. We can, yes, and then we have a lesson plan competition for educators working within the EcoSchool's Leaf and Wire programs. And here we want to increase the capacity of teachers to teach about pollution and also create teaching resources that we can later on distribute within our network and to the wide public. So if you have a lesson plan in mind, then you can visit the Litterless Plus website, download the form and submit it to the national operator within the program. The deadline is the 31st of August. Now, and if you're interested, you can also take a look at the last year's winners, and there's a link there. So last year it was about biodiversity, and this year about pollution. So after we do all these activities, we have a workshop in mid-November, where we try to look at all the activities that we did through the year and kind of try to wrap it up, present the best lesson plans, share the best practices that we received, and reflect, get feedback from you and reflect on what worked well, what worked less well, so we will be able to be better in what we do for 2024. And I think that this is the last one. Yes, so back to you, Riza.
Thank you, Shimon. So maybe that felt like a lot of information in one go. I believe you have the link to the Litterless Plus website in the chat. All of this information is there. It has the quizzes, it has the courses, it had the lesson plan competition. Maybe after hearing our panelists, you already have an idea, you already have a project ready to go, or you're already doing a project. That's great. If you are, take some pictures, post it on social media, make sure to tag us. We would love to see it and help share the great work that you're doing. If you're not really sure where to start, we hope that these activities can be a source of inspiration. You can do them at work with your colleagues, you can do them in your hotel, you can do them on the beach, you can do them with your students in the classroom. They're meant to be flexible. The idea is just to get started. So how do we do that? Well, if you want to, you can get started right now. All you have to do is take out your phone and scan the QR code, and you can test out one or both of the quizzes. They're very short, as Shimon said, and you might learn something new. And then if you want to get more into the nitty-gritty of what is this Litterless campaign all about, and what can you do throughout this whole year. And I would like to emphasize that it is throughout all of 2023. And as Natalie previous said, you know, this is not a sprint, it's a marathon. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, just take it one little activity at a time. So you can check out the website. And if you're already ready to start, please share your work with us on social media. That would be fantastic. There is a webinar coming up on the 28th of February, organized very kindly by the Green Key team about environmentally friendly textiles. The grant submission deadline is also on the 28th of February. So I hope this is a good place for everyone to get started. If you do have some questions, put them in the chat. We will stick around to answer those. But you know, if not, this is the Litterless Plus launch, and we're so excited and very happy that you all joined us. And we hope to see and hear a lot of great activities from you throughout the year. So thank you.